I was cleaning up after dinner when my phone buzzed. He texts, "I miss you. Can we talk?" It was from David, my husband. But David died 2 years ago in a car accident. His phone was destroyed in the crash. I stared at the screen, my stomach churning. Someone had to be messing with me. I replied, "Who is this?" The response was immediate. "It's me, baby. I'm sorry for leaving you. I didn't mean to." The way it was written, those words, it was exactly like him. If this is a joke, it's not funny. I'm not joking. I've been here the whole time. Please come to the living room. I walked to the living room, my heart pounding. The room was empty except for his old recliner. For just a moment, I thought I saw him. His shadow, it flickered, but when I reached out, it disappeared. Another text buzzed. "You saw me, didn't you? I've been waiting so long." I sat on the couch trembling. "David, what do you mean? Where are you?" The reply came, "I never left. I'm in the house watching you, listening." The text kept coming, day after day. Some sweet, some desperate. "Do you remember the lake? I hated that casserole, but I didn't want to hurt your feelings." Then the tone shifted. One night as I lay in bed, another text came. "Why are you acting like you are alone? I'm right here." I froze. "David?" At the foot of the bed. "Don't you see me?" I stared into the darkness. The foot of my bed was empty, but my skin prickled with the feeling of being watched. "You're pretending I'm not here. That's not fair." Desperate, I called my best friend Emily. She told me to check the phone account. When I did, my heart dropped. The messages weren't coming from David's number. They were coming from mine. That night at 3 in the morning, my phone buzzed again. "I think it's time to tell you the truth." "What truth?" I typed, my hands trembling. "It wasn't an accident. You knew, didn't you?" Memories of our last fight before the crash flooded back. I hadn't answered his call that day. I've been too angry. The final text came, "You let me die." I looked at his chair in the living room. This time, the shadow didn't flicker. It stared back. This happened to me back in the fall of 2016. I live in a very small rural community where everyone knows everyone. The state that I live in allows rifle mule deer buck hunting during the first week of October. Sustainance hunting is very important in the culture of my area. This fall I was lucky enough to have drawn a buck tag. I had made plans to hunt on my grandmother's farm on this evening. Given that I am a smaller woman, I had asked my husband to go with me in case I kill something. He could help me pack it out. However, he could not go due to work obligations. Fine, no problem. I've hunted this farm many times by myself. I know it like the back of my hand. I strapped on my boots, grabbed my rifle and binoculars, tucked my cell phone into my pocket and made my way to my Jeep. My grandmother's farm consists of corn, bordering an alfalfa field along a river. This is the perfect place to fill it a buck tag. Parked my Jeep about a mile upriver from the field, then began walking along the tree line towards the area where the deer had mostly been feeding. At the opposite end of the field, there is a large haystack where all the harvested alfalfa is stored. As I saw it coming into my field of view, I felt the hair stand up on the back of my neck. I kneeled down and viewed the area through my binoculars. I could see a very tall, large man walking briskly towards me from behind the haystack. I knew for a fact that I was supposed to be the only one hunting this farm on this night, as I had just spoken to my grandmother. Something inside of me told me I needed to get out of the area as fast as I could. I initially tried to turn around and walk back down the trees to my Jeep, but given that I had such short legs, this guy was quickly closing the gap quickly. He was still several hundred yards from me, so I decided to try to cross the river instead. When he walked across a small ditch and dispersed from my line of sight, I quickly darted into the corn and kept quiet. I could hear him walking closer and closer. I desperately tried to call my husband. Back then, the closest cell towers were over 30 miles away and cell service was extremely spotty. I could not connect to my husband or 911. By this point, the man was given 100 yards of me. I could hear him ripping corn out and stomping around and lightly cussing. Where the fuck did you go? Another issue is it was getting dark quickly. I definitely did not want to be in the dark alone with this man. I watched him for a few minutes and was able to determine that he did not have a gun. After weighing my options, I decided to step out and see if I could de-escalate the situation. As I work in healthcare and work with mental unstable people all the time, I stepped out of the corn. Hi, I'm sorry if I interrupted your hunt or something. I did not mean to cause any harm, I said with a sweet smile on my face. I made sure there was at least 80 yards of distance between us. His eyes locked with mine, and it obvious there was something with this man. He stood about 6 feet 5 inches tall. His clothes were absolutely filthy, stained with what appeared to be his own waste and sweat. His shirt was torn and had dried blood on it. His face was crooked, as if he had a stroke prior, and slurred his words. There you fucking are, he yelled. He reached down and grabbed a massive stick, talking a stick at least 5 feet long. He could easily kill me with his stick. I stood my ground and grabbed my rifle from my back and pointed it at him. He stopped holding the stick. We looked at each other for a second when he began yelling, Do you know whose farm you are on? I stated, yes, this is my grandmother's farm. I've hunted it my whole life. The veins began to pop out of his head. No, this is not. My wife is hunting in this cornfield and you ruined it. Because of you, she missed a huge buck, you stupid bitch. He became so enraged he started making strange growling sounds and started spitting everywhere. I was running through the options in my head at this point when he suddenly started to lunge at me. I turned the safety of my rifle and loudly stated, Stop, I will shoot if I have to. He froze in his track and just stared at me for about 30 seconds before dropping the stick. He grunted loudly with his eyes darting around. Listen, I don't want to have to do something we will both regret. I am very sorry I ruined your hunt. If you turn around and walk away from me, I will leave, I calmly explained. I could see he was thinking hard about what to do next when he bumbled, Fine, and turned around, stumping back towards the haystack. My heart was about to beat out of my chest. I was not about to turn back on this man though. Watch until he walked distance away. Then I darted back into the corn. I thought back on how he said I spooked the massive buck and ruined his wife's hunt, but that did not make any sense. I had a good view of the whole field and there was no deer presence. I decided to observe him through my binoculars. Watched him climb up the haystack and get into a small two-door white car. He quickly peeled out the haystack lot. I was able to catch that the car had a California license plate, but nothing more. I lived nowhere near California. Took off down the road, and he was alone. No one else was in that vehicle. Ran back to the Jeep and locked myself in it. Sped home as fast as I could and told my husband what happened. I had never seen this man in my life, and neither had my husband based off my description. We live in a community of about 200 people. Born and raised here, we know everyone. Called our local sheriff. They came out and took a statement. Took them to the haystack where he was parked, and we found a knife lying on the ground. Of course, nothing could be done as I was not able to get a plate number or a name from the man. To this day, I still have no idea what the man's intentions were. Even though I could guess in a few, it's been 8 years and I've never seen this man again. I also decided that I've been hunting with a buddy from then on. It was 2001. I was a single mom, 34 years old at the time, and my son was 10. I took my son to his elementary school on my way to work. My schedule allowed for it, and it was nice to start our days out together. I'd drop him off and head to work that was about 10 minutes away. I had to cross over a river that ran through the city. I've always hated stopping on bridges at traffic lights, and this light seems extra long. Glancing around as I waited, I was watching people in their car, the river, and that traffic light that seemed to be stuck on red. Looking in my rear view mirror, I noticed a little white haired old lady driving a little car. She was watching me in my rearview mirror as well. I was curious, so I kept looking at her, and she threw her head back and laughed or crackled, made a slashing across her neck sign, and then made a cradle of her arms, rocking it back and forth. And then she pointed at me. The longer I watched her, just the more disturbed I was. She just kept doing this over and over and laughing. If you're a parent, you know this is not something that you prank other cars about. Felt evil, but no paranormal stuff here, so that's just my take on it. Well, it had me pretty rattled, and once that light turned green, I flew up the street to get to work. And of course, I got more anxious the longer I was driving. By the time I got to work, I was in a full panic and went to my office and called the school. My son was in a special class, alongside his regular assigned class. He got too restless. He could go to this special class as an accommodation, so I was able to speak directly to his teacher immediately. I told her what happened, and she said, "Boy, that sounds scary," and assured me my son was okay. I often thought back to that event, and I don't know if it was harbinger of doom or just an encounter with crazy. But my son died suddenly, just weeks before his 19th birthday. The last thing I said to him was, "I love you, baby."